Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador. As always, I am your host, the Ambassador, and today we are going to be revisiting Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, or Chapter 11, if you prefer, the Heiress. And the reason I wanted to do this follow up, there were a couple of things in the episode that I didn't cover in my initial review that I wanted to discuss with you all today. So we're going to go over those and everything, and then um, obviously wrap up. But um, yeah, as I said in my original video, I thought honestly this episode was probably one of the best and everything that we've seen thus far. Uh, the the things I wanted to go over were the relationship and the conversations between the Mandalorian and the other Mandalorians. Obviously, you had Bo-Katan, you had Kasha Reeves, and you had X Woobs, the other man and woman that were with Bo-Katan in the episode. And also wanted to discuss some of the interactions between the yodeling and the reptilian couple. So, and I might go over a few other things as well, but those are the main things I wanted to discuss with y'all today. And we'll start off and everything with the yodeling and everything, and then we'll go from there. I know a lot of people were upset with the fact that the yodeling, the child, was eating several of the reptilian couple's unfertilized eggs, their children. And I can understand where people were coming from. But something that I found of interest in this episode was the fact that when the Mandalorian goes off on his mission with the others, he leaves the child with the reptilian couple, and they're perfectly fine with it. And we see at one point during that episode, one of the eggs actually hatches, and you see one of the infant reptilian children come out of that egg, and you see the child's face pressed up against the glass. And actually, I actually got smart, and I took a few. I hope I don't get a claim for this or anything, but I actually took a few images from the episode, and I'm going to bring those up here in just 1 second because I want to have a visual aid while y'all are hearing me talk, obviously. Come on. There we go. All right. Now, take me back here. There we go. And obviously, we got the child here. And this is actually a shot from towards the end of the episode. But the thing that I found of interest, and I'll be interested to see what happens going forward with the child, is the fact that you see the child playing with the little infant reptilian baby. Okay, infant reptilian, and the mother and father have got in a little bowl of water, and the child is playing with it. What I find interesting about this is the fact that going forward, does this teach the child the sanctity of life? Does this start to instill in the child that idea that life is sacred, and that if you see some sort of egg, you don't just pop it in your mouth and eat it? And I'm very curious about that, because I know we've had a lot of time with the Mandalorian and the child together and so forth, but I'll be interested to see if there are any repercussions from that interaction between the child and the reptilian couple. That's the thing I'm going to find of interest. So, the other thing I wanted to get into was the interactions between the Mandalorian and Bo-Katan and the rest of her party. And the things I want to discuss here is the fact of the Mandalorian's training, his upbringing, and so on. And I can stop this for the moment. So, but what I found of interest here, and there's a particular moment and everything after they save the Mandalorian, they're on the barge on Trask. And obviously, the whole episode takes place on Trask. But what I found of interest is that there's a moment when Bo-Katan and her party take the helmets off, or take their helmets off, and Din Djarin, and the Mandalorian, he's like, "You're not real Mandalorians. Mandalorians don't ever remove their helmets." And they look at the man, Axe Woves, and everything. He's like, he's one of them. And Bo-Katan and Kasha Reeves, the other female Mandalorian, are like, "Yep, he is." And he's like, "One of what?" And they explain, "You are a child of the Watch." And I talked about this a little bit, but I want to do a deeper dive on this. What I found interesting is this whole idea that there are different factions within Mandalorian culture. And the reason I find this of interest is it sets up this idea that everybody within Mandalorian culture, within different clans, functions differently. And this does have somewhat of a real life parallel to it. I think I'll explain why here in a few minutes. But the Mandalorian is like, real Mandalorians don't ever remove their helmets. And and Bo-Katan explains to him, "You are a child of the Watch." They were a zealous group of Mandalorians that broke off from the rest of Mandalorian society to go off and try and reestablish the ancient Mandalorian warrior culture. And I don't find anything necessarily wrong with that. What I found of interest was that moment when the Mandalorian almost became like frozen. Like he couldn't handle the fact that there were different Mandalorians that had a different mindset than him. And the reason I find that of interest is it does, like I say, it has real life parallels. And I'll use myself as an example. For those of you who are aware, and if you're not, that's fine. I was actually adopted at birth. And I didn't find out until I was 31 that I was in fact adopted and everything. And I won't go into the whole minutia and everything of why and everything of my parents' rationale for not telling me. But I could understand where the Mandalorian's coming from. You have been taught to think a certain way the majority of your life. And all of a sudden, your whole world is turned upside down because you see people behaving in a way that is counter to what you have been exposed to. And throughout the series thus far, Mandalorian has had preconceived notions about people and about things. And in particular, his reaction to dealing with droids. Now, we do see at the end of season 1, he has come to have a respect and understanding of droids. And we see in a previous episode that when he lands there on Tatooine in the spaceport, he's not as resistant to droids working on his ship. What I'm going to be interested to see going forward is whether or not whether Din is going to be more receptive to working with Mandalorians who think differently or were raised differently than he was. Because he has had his entire life turned upside down on him. From the time that he was rescued by those Mandalorians, as we saw throughout season 1, they have raised him in a more zealous, a more, for lack of a better word, abnormal way than other Mandalorians were reared and trained. So the question for me will become, if he meets up with Bo-Katan and her group, and even comes across more Mandalorians down the road, And just real quick to the chat, LDG Pixels, good to see you, bud. Thank you for popping by. I appreciate it as always. But I will be interested to see how he reacts if there are even more Mandalorians that pop up and how he's going to interact with them. Is he going to still seem somewhat resistant? Is he going to still seem somewhat hostile to those Mandalorians? Or is he going to try and change his way of thinking and come to accept how they operate as Mandalorians? Because honestly, the thing that I really am appreciating about this series is the fact that the main, well, obviously this is true of a lot of shows, but this is the first time we've had a live action Star Wars series. But the thing that I've been interested in seeing is the fact that the main character is having a varied reactions to situations that we would experience in real life. If you want to draw a parallel and everything, as I was talking about a few minutes ago with the whole situation of the Mandalorian not being as hostile or prejudiced towards droids, that is obviously something that we see in real life. We have our prejudices against different groups of people and different ideas and so on. And the first season, I think in a lot of ways, was the Mandalorian trying to break that prejudice that he has against droids, and IG-11 was the catalyst for him doing that. That was a huge progression for him. And I know a lot of people have said that this show has its weaker moments, it has its weaker episodes, and so on. But as from what I've seen thus far, I have to say I don't necessarily agree, because we are seeing growth, we are seeing evolution, we are seeing progression of a character in an organic way. And that is something that I appreciate as a Star Wars fan, because we've seen this in the movies to one degree or another. But seeing this in a television show centered around the Star Wars universe and seeing our main character come to the realization that the world is a lot bigger than he realizes. I mean, obviously, he has traveled, he has trained and everything his life before he was taken in by the Mandalorians. I'm sure that he had exposure to the broader galaxy, more than likely. He understood what was going on. But with that one particular moment and everything in this week's episode, he has been exposed to Mandalorians other from himself, different from him, different from his way of thinking, and different from how the Mandalorians that he has been around all his life live their lives. And I will be very interested to see where they go from here. Now, we obviously don't know what's going to happen throughout the remainder of this season. Obviously, we're going to be meeting at least within the next couple of episodes. We're going to be reintroduced to Ahsoka Tano. We don't know what that interaction is going to be like, because the Mandalorian has not come across anybody that's been Force sensitive except for the child. And we've got a mature, we don't know how exactly old and anything at this point Ahsoka is in this episode or anything. But I will be interested to see how he deals with the whole idea of meeting a at least I want to say fully trained Force user, because Ahsoka herself says, "I am no Jedi." So we'll just put her under the designation of a Force user or a Force wielder. But the one thing that I really appreciate about this episode was the fact that the Mandalorian, even for a brief moment, was able to put aside his inborn or ingrained resistance to working with Mandalorians who function or think in a different way than he does. And that, for me, I think is a huge benefit for the character. Because, as I mentioned, and I'll use another illustration or anything to help you all understand where I'm coming from with this. For those of you who know, I am a Christian, have been the majority of my life. And I grew up in a fairly conservative, very low-key expression of how worship was done in the church. And when I finally returned to the church in 2010, I went to a non-denominational church rather than a denominational church that was affiliated with a specific Protestant denomination. And it was a complete and total culture shock for me, because I was used to it just being a piano and an organ, and the pastor was dressed in robes or suit and everything else. And instead, the pastor was in khakis and a nice polo, and the music and the style of worship was completely different, was very high energy, very a lot of what you would see nowadays in a lot of non-denominational churches or even denominational churches. And for me, I was very resistant to that. I was very uptight. But after a while, I finally loosened up and I was able to accept this new form of how church is done. And I think for the Mandalorian, he's going to have to realize the Mandalorians are here. They are around. There's lots more of them than he realizes. And if he's going to be a part of the broader galaxy, he's going to have to get past all of these presupposed ideas of how Mandalorians behave and how Mandalorians function. Now, I know a lot of people have said that the way the Mandalorians behaved in the EU and how they have been depicted in shows like the Clone Wars and Rebels and so on, and now in this show, The Mandalorian completely breaks with established expanded universe lore. And I do understand where those people are coming from. I get it and everything, and I'm not going to berate or belittle any of them, because that would be rude, and I'm not going to do that, because I am very much a person who does adhere to lore of Star Wars. But I'm willing to give the people that are working on this show some leeway, some creative license, so long as it doesn't just completely and utterly shatter my enjoyment of the show. I'm willing to see what they're going to do with the Mandalorians in this show. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the biggest expert in terms of the expanding universe and everything and all the lore of Mandalorian culture and society, because I'm not. I will be the first to admit it. I am not. But what I have seen thus far, I have been exceedingly happy with. I have looked at this show with a critical eye. I am not just saying everything is sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. But what I am saying is, for me, as a hardcore Star Wars fan, from the cinematic universe to the EU and everything else, this show is getting Star Wars right in a lot of ways that, for a person such as me, as a hardcore fan, appreciates. And I do appreciate everyone that's working on this show. I appreciate the hard work and the effort that they're putting in. I know some people didn't care for how Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode. I thought she did a great job, honestly. I can't remember which episode exactly she did in season 1, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it was the episode that was kind of a callback to The Seventh Samurai, where we're introduced to Cara Dune and so on. And again, that for me was a great episode. Everything, and I thought Howard much like her father, has become a very well-rounded, and I'm sure she'll just grow from here, director. But that all being said, there was one other image I wanted to bring up because I had a brain freeze when I did my initial review and everything. And I want to bring this up now because I finally, and let me scan through here. Hold on 1 minute, folks. Here we go. There we go. This was the ship that I couldn't think of the name of. It's called a Gazanti freighter. Now, I've got a couple other shots, but I don't want to risk anything going hinky with the stream or anything. I'm sure nothing will, but I loved the design of this ship. It feels like Star Wars. And obviously, this was an Imperial freighter or Imperial vessel, and it's got the look, it's got the design of an Imperial vessel. And again, this is how, if this is what Star Wars on TV or on streaming is going to look like going forward, well, this is the way. That's honestly, that's what I gotta say about that. But that all being said, folks, those were the two things I wanted to cover. I'll be interested to see what happens going forward when Mandalorian encounters more Mandalorians, if it's the same group, if it's more, and so on, how he's going to react to them. I am hopeful that he won't be quite as stiff or resistant to how they function. I'll be interested to see what happens there. As with the child, again, I will be interested to see if that whole situation with chapter 10 and going into chapter 11, if the child, the yodeling starts to come to have an appreciation for life, anything more so, anything, because obviously he does to a certain degree. But I'll be interested to see if he's not quite as quick to eat any more eggs. So, but that all being said, folks, that was what I wanted to discuss and everything. And for those of you that were here, I know there wasn't quite a few, but I wanted to put this together and everything. Hopefully, for those of you that'll catch us on the replay, make sure and share down below your thoughts on what you thought on anything I had to say. And of course, smash that like button. I did want to do a quick shout out and everything for LDG Pixels. Folks, if you have not subscribed to his channel, I suggest you do so. He's doing a lot of good stuff for the YouTube community, for the online community. He has two channels. One is called Pixelated, and the other is called LDG Pixels. And he is on Twitter. You can reach him there. So if you're needing help with any software issues on your computer, or you're needing help with editing, or if you're needing help with something that with watch parties and so on, reach out to him. He's good people. I vouch for him personally. And he has my utmost respect. Someone else, anything that I want to give a shout out, and actually he's going to be going live here in a few minutes. I know for those of you that'll catch us on the replay, you won't have any base of reference, but that's all right too. Dawson over at Nerdy in Many Ways is going to be doing a Justice League roast / watch party and everything here in a little bit. And I will put the link to his stream in the chat here. I suggest anything, not just so much for this one particular video, but go check out Dawson's channel. He has crossed 11,000 subscribers, and he is worth your time. I have worked with him on several occasions, and he is a great YouTuber. He is a great guy. He's a family man, and he is also one that I have nothing but respect for. So, quick update on the channel. Coming up this week, I'm going to be busy. This coming Wednesday, I will have a double header for you all. Wednesday afternoon, I'll be back with the Council of Ones, Babylon 5, as we review the episode There All Is Honor. I think I said that right. And then Wednesday night at 7:30, I'm going to be doing I'm going to be doing one of two. I'm going to be doing the first of two watch parties this week, and we're going to be watching. Well, it's a little bit of a cult classic. It's extremely campy at this point, extremely cheesy, but we're going to be watching Dungeons and Dragons because, if I remember correctly, this is the anniversary or the birthday of the creation of the whole Dungeons and Dragons franchise or anything, the role playing game itself specifically. And I thought to pay a little homage to that, we'd watch Dungeons and Dragons. And then Thursday night, I will also be doing another watch party at 7 p.m. Central Time, and we will be watching the Zack Snyder classic 300. So if you want to be a part of either one of those watch parties, reach out to me on Twitter, reach out to me on Instagram, or on any of the Discords I'm a part of, and I'm a part of several. So get a hold of me one way or another. And then Black Friday, I am celebrating my ambassadorial anniversary on YouTube, and I will be doing a 12-hour stream from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We're gonna have a big blowout and everything for y'all. Gonna be sending out the word to a bunch of people and everything. Some people that have been here since the beginning, some that I've met more recently. And we're gonna be doing a watch party for Monty Python: The Holy Grail. Also going to be doing watch party for the latest episode of The Mandalorian. We're going to be doing some karaoke, and then we're going to see where the night takes us. I've got some topics lined up and everything for discussion overnight and everything, but I'm sending you all a open invite now. Come celebrate my YouTube anniversary in a couple of weeks. So, but that all being said, folks, I hope you'll have a great day or a great evening wherever you're at. And be sure to check out all the channels I mentioned and everything, LDG Pixels and Nerdy in Many Ways. And until I see you next time, remember, this is the way.
I have always been